Hello, thanks for joining us on the news. I'm Ruth Aguela. My sign language interpreter is Franklin Efe. We're starting with the headlines. House of Representatives receives request from President Bola Tinubu on amendment to spend 500 billion naira from the 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act. Vice President Shatima receives Pakistani education activist Malala, pledges federal government's commitment to promote girl-child education. And leaders of Iran and Kenya pledged to strengthen ties as they sign trade agreements on trade during Iranian president's visits. The most expected respite Nigerians have been yearning for to ameliorate the hardship occasioned by the fuel subsidy removal will soon materialize, as President Bola Tinubu is asking for just little more time to tidy up the measures. The president gave these assurances as he received his former colleagues from class of 1999 governors at the State House.
Please. Help tell the people to be a little patient. The palliative is coming. I'm doing the arithmetic. I don't want even the cash transfers to fall into wrong hands. So please, help persuade them to be a little patient. I know it pinches. I know it is difficult, but at the end of the day, we are going to all rejoice in the prosperity of this country. May God bless Nigeria.
Those expressed happiness that one of their own is the leader of the country and doing them proud with policy decisions so far taken. State House correspondent Musbahu Danwahab reports that 19 former governors made up the visiting delegation. We'll bring you a full package in subsequent bulletin. From the legislature, Nigerians seeking palliatives for fuel subsidy removal may soon have cause to smile, as the House of Representatives has received a request from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu proposing an amendment to spend 500 billion naira from the 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act. The President, in a letter to the House of Representatives read at Wednesday's plenary by Speaker Tajuddin Abbas, is seeking approval of the Green Chamber to use the requested funds for the provision of palliatives to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal on Nigerians. National Assembly correspondent Mitari Ikben reports.
The President's request for approval of funds to provide palliatives is coming amidst growing advocacy to ameliorate the effect of fuel subsidy removal on Nigerians.
The request has become necessary in order to, among other things, source for funds necessary to provide palliatives to mitigate the effect of the recent removal of fuel subsidy on Nigerians. Thus, the sum of 500 billion naira only has been extracted from the 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act of 819 billion 536 million 937,815 naira only.
The Speaker slated Thursday's plenary for consideration of the President's request. There were separate motions urging the House to beam its searchlight on the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NEMA, as well as crude oil theft in the country.
The need to investigate alleged fictitious contract awards, gross mismanagement of billions of naira, and lopsided placement of directors by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NEMA.
In just 2021 alone, Nigeria lost over $4 billion to oil theft at the rate of 200,000 barrels per day.
The validity period of JAMB results was also in focus to address the backlog of candidates seeking admission into tertiary institutions.
To urge the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board to rethink and allow its results to be valid for 3 years.
The House has also resolved to intervene and prevent the plan by Nigeria's Super Falcons to boycott the 2023 Women's World Cup.
Urge the Nigerian Football Federation to pay previous match bonuses and allowances owed the Super Falcons. To invite the Football Federation and the relevant stakeholders to appear before an ad hoc committee set up in the next legislative day, which is tomorrow, due to the urgency of the football tournament, which starts on the 20th of this month.
34 bills passed first reading at Wednesday's plenary, including the Companies and Allied Matters Act Amendment Bill 2023 and the National Ecological Fund Management Agency Establishment Bill 2023. From the National Assembly, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
The federal government is fully committed to promoting girl-child education and gender empowerment initiatives. Vice President Kashim Shettima stated this when he received the United Nations Deputy Secretary General and Chairperson, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, Amina Mohammed, in the company of the Pakistani education activist Malala Yousafzai. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Usman Jibrila reports.
Issues of girl-child education and gender empowerment are on the top priority list to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Vice President Kashim Shettima said the Sustainable Development Goals 4 and 5 will be pursued by the present administration passionately, as President Bola Tinubu is an advocate of girl-child education. He commended the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and the co-founder of Malala Fund for their efforts in promoting girl-child education, among other initiatives, especially in Nigeria. Vice President Shettima describes Amina Mohammed as a symbol of hope for African women and Malala as an icon of hope. He assured the United Nations and Malala Fund of the federal government's partnership for greater good of Nigeria.
This time she decided on her 10-year anniversary, she wanted really to make the advocacy for education here in this country. We have a large number of out-of-school children. We know that the quality of education is not what every child should have in this country. And the advocacy to an administration that is coming in, that believes in education, is an important timing. So her voice, her inspiration, not just to government, but to the rest of society, to governors that we met yesterday, is extremely important as this administration begins its journey.
Education activists, it is the work of the education activists, girls, and civil society and government that gives us hope that we can have a better future for education of all children, especially girls here. And I was very lucky that I had the meeting with the Vice President, and he gave us his time, he gave us his support. And our ask here in Nigeria is that government, all states and all party members make a commitment to ensure that every child in Nigeria has access to a complete education, which includes senior secondary education as well.
The visiting team commended the federal government in promoting the Sustainable Development Goals in the areas of gender equity and education of girls across the country. From the State House, Abdurrahman Usman Jibrila, NTA News.
International Malala Day, which is observed on July 12 every year, as an honor to the bravery and activism of Malala Yousafzai, a Pakistani advocate for girls' education. Basi Ita Ipang reports that Malala, who celebrated the day in Nigeria, dedicated her 26th birthday to Nigerian women and girls.
The day also marks Malala's 10th anniversary of addressing the UN after her attack by the Taliban for speaking out in support of the rights of girls to education. She is an inspirational figure who strongly advocates for women's rights and education. She was born on July 12, 1997 in Pakistan. In 2007, the Taliban took control of her city and implemented a ban on girls attending school. Despite this, In 2009, Malala started writing for the British Broadcasting Corporation, using the platform to advocate for girls' education. On October 9, 2012, gunmen from the Taliban shot her in the head while returning home from school. Despite the attack, she was not deterred. She is now a global champion for education.
And just last year, 14 African countries signed the Freetown Manifesto to promote gender equality in and through education. I'm grateful to these achievements.
The UN Deputy Secretary General, Amina Mohammed, says she is a role model who remains determined to persist in her cause.
She just inspires you, she incentivizes you, she speaks to leaders fearlessly because she has the courage of her convictions. And she always says, she's just a representation of many Nigerian girls.
Has said it's not just me, it's not just my story, it's the story of every girl child that needs to have the opportunity to get an education and change their life.
These Nigerian girls, just like Malala, say they are committed to advocating for the education of the girl child.
We make use of the non-formal method of education with our various curriculum. We try and teach these girls. We also impart skills in our own way.
The theme for this year's celebration is I Am Malala, highlighting how renowned individuals like heroes and role models can either contribute to societal progress or distract from it. Basi Taipa, NTA News.
The leaders of Iran and Kenya have pledged to strengthen ties as their government signed a raft of trade agreements Wednesday during Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi's maiden visit to the East African nation. Let's hear details from Charles Alpha.
The visit comes as the Islamic Republic tries to shore up diplomatic support to ease its international isolation, with Raisi also due to travel to Uganda and Zimbabwe this week on the first Africa tour by an Iranian leader in 11 years. Raisi described his visit to Kenya as a turning point in the development of relations between the two countries. He said his talks with President William Ruto reflected the determination and resolve for expansion for economic, trade, political and cultural cooperation. Ruto described Iran as a critical strategic partner for Kenya and said the two governments had signed 5 MOUs focusing on areas including information technology, investment promotion and fisheries.
This highly productive visit has been an excellent opportunity for us to renew and reaffirm the strong bonds of friendship and solidarity between the governments and people of Kenya and Iran.
In addition to meeting Kenyan President William Ruto, Raisi will head to Uganda later Wednesday for talks with his Ugandan counterpart, Yoweri Museveni, and see Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa on Thursday. Western powers have also sought to deepen trade ties with the continent, along with India and China, which have been on an infrastructure spending spree in Africa. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
Humanity counts on the ocean, but can the ocean count man? This was the pose UN Secretary General puts to an open debate at the climate change wrap in New York. Adebola Brookston Sunday reports.
The ocean is described as planet's greatest reservoir of biodiversity, with resources that sustains communities, prosperity and human health around the world. Addressing the forum, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said man should be the ocean's best friend, but right now, humanity is its worst enemy.
The ocean is the foundation of life. It supplies the air we breathe and food we eat. It regulates our climate and weather. The ocean is our planet's greatest reservoir of biodiversity.
The open debate at the instance of the United Arab Emirates, which presided over the Security Council during the month dedicated it to climate change, peace and security.
We aim to underscore how climate change has been, is, and will continue to directly impact the Council's ability to carry out its mandate. But we also believe that the impacts of climate change on international peace and security require a carefully calibrated role for the Security Council.
As part of the RAP, Special Representative of the Secretary General for Somalia, Catriona Liang, visited different regions of the country, one of the most affected by climate change.
We also talked about the importance of dealing with the underlying drivers around climate change and building resilience and a future stronger economic base.
The RAP is part of build-up to COP28 in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Adebola, Brooklyn Sunday, NTA News.
North Atlantic Treaty Organization NATO allies have reached a decision to cancel the membership action plan required for Ukraine's accession to the alliance, as it affirms Ukraine has a future in NATO. Charles Alpha reports.
It is day 2 and final meeting of world leaders in Vilnius, Lithuania, and NATO allies have reached a consensus. But with specific implementation timelines discussion on security guarantees for Ukraine, which are crucial before the country can become a full-fledged member of the alliance. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
We'll take a break now. We're back. Please stay tuned. Thanks for staying tuned. Russia throws out a Security Council resolution that would have allowed a 9-month renewal of an aid operation in northwest Syria. Consequently, Russia failed to pass its own resolution that would extend the operation for 6 months. Let's get details from Adebola Brooklyn Sunday.
The mandate for operation, which allowed the delivery of aid, including food, medicine and shelter, since 2014, expired this Monday. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres had asked for a 12-month renewal.
The draft resolution...
Addressing the Council, the permanent representative of Brazil, Sergio Franca Diniz, said the draft resolution would renew the authorization for the Bab al-Hawa border crossing until 10 April 2024 to ensure that the language reflects the commitment to humanitarian assistance to all those in need in Syria through all modalities.
We believe this draft resolution is a fair compromise. It represents a balance between the different positions of Council members. We are grateful to all Council members for their engagement to that end.
Those in favour of the draft resolution, please raise their hand.
China abstained on the first vote, while the remaining 13 Security Council members voted in favour.
Today, we are witnessing once again another act, which is played out by Western countries. And it is part of the show called the cross-border mechanism for providing humanitarian assistance to Syria. Its main characteristics are a complete disregard for the interest of the Syrian people and the intent to artificially provoke Russia into using the veto.
What the world has just witnessed was an act of utter cruelty. The majority of this council stood together to extend this humanitarian lifeline to save lives. But one permanent member state blocked this compromise resolution. And I just have to ask why.
Only Russia and China voted in favor of Russia's proposal for a 6-month extension. 10 Security Council members abstained, and the United States, Britain, as well as France voted against it. Adebola, Brooklyn Sunday, NTA News.
The federal government has been acknowledged for its efforts towards the rehabilitation and protection of children who are caught up in conflict situations. This was emphasized by the ambassador of Malta to Nigeria, Vanessa Fraser, when she led a delegation of the United Nations Security Council Working Group on Children and Armed Conflict to the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development in Abuja.
Armed conflict in northeast Nigeria has claimed thousands of lives and disrupted livelihoods. And for children who are vulnerable, they mostly bear the brunt. Reports from UNICEF says since 2009, more than 8,000 girls and boys have been recruited and used as child soldiers in different roles by armed groups.
Yes, children have been caught up in conflict.
In complementing federal government's efforts towards the rehabilitation and reintegration of children caught up in conflict situations, a delegation from the United Nations Security Council Working Group on Children and Armed Conflict is on an assessment visit to the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development to strengthen mechanisms already in place and provide durable solutions.
The government is doing a lot and is one of the countries that is really working with the United Nations on these issues. Their reintegration is very important into society, making sure that their human rights are protected.
Now we're having over 95,000 individuals that have exited from armed groups, especially Boko Haram. 60% of them are women and children.
And most of the concentration of efforts in the past was to keep them alive, put them away from harm. But now we are resolved to improve their resilience and also to put them on the path to social development and improved capacity.
For the delegation, available data will help improve implementation of policies, as the ties established will no doubt build a strong social workforce towards creating sustainable path for a better future.
In view of the enormous challenges the 2023 flood devastation is likely to pose to communities, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and the Governors Forum have agreed to put in place necessary measures that will prevent and mitigate the challenges. Director General of the agency, Mustafa Habib Ahmed, said this after a closed-door meeting with the governors in Abuja. Let's get details from Ilyasu Ali Yakubu.
The 2023 seasonal climate predictions released by NAMID and flood outlook by NISA indicates that 178 local government areas in 32 states, including FCT, fall within the high risk of flooding, and 224 local government areas in 35 states under FCT are within the moderate flood risk areas, while 372 local government areas are within the low flood risk areas. In view of this dangerous scenario, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and other intervening agencies have been engaging to concretize measures aimed at bringing lasting solutions to the perennial flooding in the country. This meeting with Governors Forum and NEMA is to harmonize all efforts to effectively tackle the dangerous tendencies the 2023 flooding is likely to pose. The DG NEMA gave highlight of the closed-door meeting with the governors.
To discuss the architecture
of disaster management in Nigeria. They should have community volunteers, local emergency management committees, and state emergency management agencies, so that as they come from bottoms up, we come from top to bottom. They're willing to collaborate with us.
Meanwhile, the Plateau State Governor, Caleb Mutfwang, has solicited more support from NEMA to cater for the volume of displaced persons in the state as a result of the communal conflict in the state. The governor made the request when he paid a courtesy visit to the management of the agency.
We have a lot of unsettled communities, and of course, once you have such a crisis, the incidence of human suffering also increases.
NEMA will always continue being there for the distressed, not just Plateau State, any other state. We don't waste time.
Both NEMA and Plateau State government have promised to work hand in hand in disaster mitigation. In Abuja, Ilyasu Aliyakubu, NTA News.
Federal Character Commission has put in place modalities for improving its performance in the actualization of its mandate of equity, justice and fairness. Chairman of the Commission, Habiba Dankaka, gave the assurance during a strategic meeting with commissioners of the establishment. Adebola Brooksland Sunday reports.
Ensuring equity and fairness in the distribution of posts and infrastructural development in the country is the core mandate of the Federal Character Commission.
We are a regulator commission.
One after the other, commissioners reeled out their strategic plans towards making the remaining 2 out of the 5 years term better by putting in more efforts to fulfill the vision of the commission. Of the Unemployed Youths Association of Nigeria, Muhiba Dankaka said, no Nigerian looking up to the commission will be disappointed.
I promise you one thing, when they come down for employment, we make sure that they advertise inside the newspaper so that you people can see it and you can quickly apply. With this one, it will be easier for unemployed youth in Nigeria to get employed.
The activities we are doing now, we need to just increase upon them, ensure that we are monitoring the MDAs properly and ensuring that they are following the laid down procedures for employment, promotion, recruitment, and including the infrastructural distribution.
In government employment, what we are looking at is to ensure that it is not shady, it is not given out, it must be given out on merit. That is our stand. And then for skills, we partner with organizations, different ministries and different government agencies to organize empowerment programs.
The commission has a representative each from the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Adebola Brooksland Sunday, NTA News.
And just before we go, let's find out how Thursday's weather will fare. That's the news. Thank you very much for your time. I'm Ruth Aguila. My sign language interpreter is Franklin F.A. Bye.